Okay, can we all stand?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Revolution. About this meeting, properly published.
Yes, Chairman, it has.
Roll call.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
Mr. Dewise,
Here.
Ms. Duffy, Ms. Fisher, Mr. Grillo,
Here.
Councilwoman Roberts. Here. Mr. Scott.
Here.
Chairman Zabrowski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have the minutes for July 18th, 2024. I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review. Go ahead.
I think we missed a member.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Parikh.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Donna.
So the minutes of July 18th, 2024, I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review. Are there any questions, any issues to be amended? If not, I'd take a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Roll call.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Dewise,
Yes.
Ms. Duffy,
Yes.
Mr. Grillo,
Yes.
Mr. Parikh, Councilwoman Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Chairman Zabrowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
Attorney report.
Our discussion will be executive notes.
Thank you. Engineer report.
Justin, provide a report. We have some new things to tell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Work continues in the Riverton project. The Gateway Services District, the construction is now complete for the gravity sanitary sewer, the storm sewer, and the underdrain systems. Construction has begun for the sanitary sewer pump station on the foundations. And then in exciting news, the engineer has approved the concrete for the contractor's rebar, and rebar has been delivered to site for the Bass Pro Shop. So we're going to actually start to see things, and they expect this work to begin in fall of 2024.
Did they got the steel?
Yes,
Delivered?
rebar steel is
Okay,
on site.
Good.
We should
in
take a
other news-
picture and post that.
Yes.
Yeah. In other news, the landfill 3 project was approved by the planning board, as you're aware.
Yes.
I just wanted to share that. Sarah's been involved.
And just getting back to the landfill 3, I appreciate everybody's cooperation and assistance with that. That's obviously obviously a big deal, but a lot of collaboration between everybody on SERA, mayor and council, planning board. I know our professionals to get to the point that we did. Obviously, a piece of property that was very well, that needed an awful lot of cleanup, and really this was an opportunity for Saraville to do something really good with that property and move forward on it. And again, appreciate everybody's efforts on that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Executive Director's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Executive Director report for September 12, 2024. Item 1, SMS registration for FTA grant. The SAM's registration process has been completed, and we are now working through the checklist to submit the necessary documentation for the grant application. If you recall, this is a $1.3 million grant to study the roadways that was received, approved by federal government, and now we're working through it. And previously I reported to you that this entire process is at least 9 months, and we are somewhere in the middle. We still have some more documents to submit. Item number 2, SERANJ.gov. So the domain SERANJ.gov is in the process of being registered. In fact, just around 4 o'clock, I received the approval from Homeland Security that we will have a .gov website that we can host now. So we're going to start working on creating SERANJ.gov website. This website, along with a strong social media presence, is essential for public relations and marketing efforts to increase the visibility of Saraville. Item number 3, Sunshine Biscuit property redevelopment. The existing building on the Sunshine Biscuit property is currently 870,000 square feet and has prior planning board approval for additional 200,000 square feet expansion, which would bring current totals to 1.12 million square feet. Developer Hanover Company has proposed the demolition of current outdated building and construct of two new modern high-use warehouse resulting in total of 700,000 square feet. So we are actually, with the redevelopment, it will be a smaller size building, two building. Hanover Company will be submitting an application for redevelopment to SERA. Our planner will talk about the redevelopment process and request the council. There's a resolution on agenda for council to adopt and recommend borough and the planning board to take a study. Item number 4, Trammell Crow Phase 2. Phase 2 of Trammell Crow projects involves the development of connection road between Cheesequake Road and Journey Mill Road. SERA Executive Director and engineer, myself and engineer have met with Trammell Crow to discuss the development of the new connection roadway and additional development plans. My assistant, Zach, will speak about it later in the meeting. Item number 5, downtown study and need assessment survey has been distributed to the commissioners, council, planning board, and zoning board of adjustment to gather insight for downtown area. Later in the meeting, the result and recommendation will be presented by Cesar Claro, who we contacted at the last meeting. This is a preliminary presentations. Then he will refine, and then final presentation will be probably in October or November. Item number 6, BDA quarterly meeting. Parcel A is fully remediated and capped. A management agreement is still needed between Middlesex County and NJDEP/Green Acres to release the parcel from SERA SSA ownership. Parcel B received a GP4 permit and testing will begin after gaining access from the cinema site. Parcel C has undergone 95% of radiological cleanup with capping nearly finished and phase 1 fully approved. The next quarterly meeting will be in December, right? Okay. Item number 7, Riverton updates. Riverton team provided a site tour for Parcel C to Commissioner Grillo, Commissioner Fisher, Commissioner Parikh, Commissioner Scott, and Commissioner Roberts. Bass Pro is preparing for construction with the ground prep underway and construction expected to begin soon. Our engineer reported that they did receive actually all the material. Gateway service area, including Chick-fil-A and Quick Check, will begin construction next year. We were told in spring that they want to start construction. Billboard demolition will be scheduled in coordination with the Turnpike Authority. As per the agreement, SSA will continue paying SERA for the lease of the billboard site. Item number 8, Riverton bond issue. SERA, at the request of SSA, will issue bond backed by pilot revenue from Riverton. SERA will need a local finance board approval to issue bonds. Riverton/SSA has assured SERA that it will meet annual amortization payments. So I think I'll let Mike eventually explain further, but basically this is a part of our agreement that we will issue a revenue-backed bonds that will be paid by Riverton or SSA to us, and we'll be paying the bonds off. Item number 9, Riverton NJDEP discharge to groundwater permit. A permit has been signed by myself on the recommendation of SERA attorney for Riverton to conduct groundwater injection to attempt to control acidity levels. And it's important that I inform you that I have signed on behalf of the SERA documents that could be obligated ourselves. So I want to make sure you're aware of it. The document is reviewed by our attorney, by our engineer. They all agreed that we need to sign that, and then subsequently I signed those documents. I'm going to turn over to Mike, and he can give a little bit about the bonds.
So happy to do that, Manju. So under the local housing and redevelopment law and local finance law, there's a mechanism for raising finances called redevelopment area bonds, RAB bonds. They're used when traditional financing might not be available because of the size of the project, or the finances of the project. And it's where a redevelopment agency issues bonds. The redevelopment agency and the borough are not obligated on the bonds. The redevelopment project is the collateral for the bonds. It's revenue from the redevelopment project that will be collected under the secondary pilot that was issued by the borough. It's actually a special assessment. We call it, sorry. I love the Rolling Stones.
Just so
Remind
concert,
me, Put
actually.
it on a silent.
Sorry about that.
There's a base pilot, all that money, 95% of it goes to the borough, 5% to the county. And then there's what we call an add-on pilots, or actually a special assessment. And the funds from that, which are generated from the project, are what's going to pay the bonds. The taxpayers are not on the hook for the bonds. It's commonly done in large redevelopment projects.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just go through and add, this goes way back to when we first, did the project. When we issued the RFP, we had different developers wanting the borough to go through and float bonds to pay for things. And we made it clear way back then that the only way that the agency or the borough would be willing to go through if they were totally backed up by the development, and the borough and the SERA had no obligation to pay them. So it's something that we planned for a long time. It's finally coming to fruition.
And it's called non-recourse financing is what this is called. And at our last meeting, you approved bond counsel, and we also have underwriting advisors that we will need for this project. The bond counsel was instrumental in negotiating this deal, so we'll be able to get up to speed pretty quickly when we get the signal to start moving.
So it's important that, Commissioner, for you, all of you to understand that there's going to be a number of steps that we'll be taking. SERA will have to approve. That includes resolution approving application to local finance board. Then there is going to be a resolution, there's going to be ordinance adopted for, the bond ordinance that we will have to approve. Then we'll have to approve resolution to issue bonds. And also at the end, I want to make sure I know that it's already in agreement, but at some point I want to make sure that we have complete agreement re-signed by SSA to make sure that we are not obligated, that we do not make our borough in the future be obligated for anything to pay off this debt. So there's going to be a lot of process, and they like to do it by next summer. They want us to issue bonds. It's actually earlier than Boss Pro completion, but they told me that they're going to make sure they escrow funds so that first year or two, the payments will be coming from their reserve funds. And then eventually it will be from the lease with all the businesses that will be coming there.
And it will likely be done in phases. The earlier ones will be small, but by the time we're finished with it, it could be in the hundreds of millions of dollars of bonds that could be issued.
And you will need to hire your underwriter. I guess that's NW Financial, right?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
probably by that time, get it involved.
Sure.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, either us, Mike or David, is there any need for additional discussion, not discussion, but information related to the groundwater permit? Or was that sufficient?
No, so it's been routine. SERA is obligated to the DEP to do the remediation in turn. SSA/Riverton is obligated to take on all our obligations. So they prepare the forms, David's office and I review them. And then the agency, since we're the named entity with the DEP, we sign them, and this has been going on for 14 years.
Also, they're paying all the fees there.
Yes.
That we just got a bill for like almost $40,000, and they're processing
Yeah,
it.
they, whatever our responsibility was, they have to cover.
Any questions, comments related to our executive director's report?
I have one question. I apologize. I do not know what the acronym BDA stands for.
Brownfield Development Area.
Brownfield development.
BDA, Brownfield Development.
Brownfield, one word is not. It's not.
Thank you. Okay.
And
Thank
that's
you.
an ongoing.
It should be
committee.
two words, but.
That's been an ongoing committee since the establishment.
Since the
Yes.
establishment, yes.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I would just ask for approval of the executive director's report.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Deweese,
Yes.
Ms. Duffy, Mr. Grillo,
Yes.
Mr. Parikh,
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Scott, Chairman Zabrowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have authorization for payments of bills, total amount 62,361.20. Operating expense total of 47,118.70. Escrow total of 15,242.50. Questions or comments before?
Chairman, if I may, I just want to explain the commissioner. I've been working with Commissioner and Councilwoman Donna Roberts in trying to streamline the agenda process. And so one of the things we have done is that instead of putting all the vouchers in, we have now have you have access to that separate folder for all the vouchers. They are there. You can always look at it. The agenda includes the summary and detail printout of all the expenses that's in that, but certainly there's backups online. Also, we're posting a monthly financial in the same area. There's a separate folder for financial report. And I want to alert the commissioner that, again, I have been working with Councilwoman Donna Roberts with creating a dashboard, extracting data, so they will be available to you in the same area. There will be a dashboard approach to that. So you'll know the financial position at all the time. So.
Questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Deweese,
Yes.
Ms. Duffy, Mr. Grillo,
Yes.
Mr. Parikh,
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts.
Yes.
Mr. Scott, Chairman Zabrowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. We have two presentations this evening. The first is from our planner, which is entitled "An Area in Need of Investigation." Vina?
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, members. In front of you is a resolution recommending to the council that they direct the planning board to undertake 3 different area investigation studies. The first one is properties on either side of Crossman Street, north and south, and it contains 16 properties. The second one is an area on either sides of Mini Mall Road to the north of Ernston Road, which comprises of 15 properties. And the third one is the area including the former Sunshine Biscuit site. And I'll go into each one in detail, but all these 3 areas, this was initiated by either property owners reaching out to us, expressing their desire to redevelop these sites. I'll go with the last one first because I think that's the easiest. With former Sunshine Biscuit site, we met with Hanover Group, as Mr. Shah has already explained. There is a prior approval, planning board approval, to do an addition to the site. So the existing property has a warehouse, which is roughly 850,000 square feet. Planning board approved a second building on the same site, and the total square footage would have been 1.2 million square feet. Hanover Group now proposes to demolish the existing building and put in 2 new buildings, both of it together. sum up to 714,000 square feet, which means there's a net deduction of roughly 400,000 square feet. And I have visited this site myself. I've seen the interiors of the building. It's pretty outdated. There are leaks. The biggest issue I found was there are almost like 40 tenants in the buildings, and the uses that are in the buildings are just, it's a hodgepodge. There is a auto repair place, there's a shipping place, there is an office. So the uses don't even jive in together. The loading areas are a mess. Parking is not delineated. The roof is leaking. So Hanover Group comes in and they evaluate the existing building and they decide that this is too outdated. We want to build a modern facility which is sustainable and follows green infrastructure requirements. I believe it's going to be LEED certified. So that's their proposal. I think the advantage with it is they are trying to work with Conrail to see if the deliveries can be made using public transport, which means there will be lesser traffic on the roadways. It's still they're still in the negotiating phase. It has not been finalized. I did participate on Old Bridge side in a meeting with the county because the developer also reached out to the county to see what improvements would be required. Mr. Cornell from CME was also present at that meeting, and we all chimed in and had our recommendations and suggestions. Overall, I think it's a great project. And what I notice is this project is very close to the existing redevelopment area, the Hercules redevelopment area. There are two properties. One is owned by, I believe, DEP. Two of them are owned by DEP. I think it would make most sense to expand the existing Hercules redevelopment area and include these 5 properties to be a part of that plan, and then create a sub-district that has bulk standards and requirements and design standards for just the former Sunshine Biscuit property. So that's the easy one. The next one is the mini mall area. The property owner actually reached out to us expressing interest in redeveloping the site. They own the adjacent property too, and which is currently vacant. They also own a property across on the other side of Mini Mall Road, which they currently use for parking. And they have expressed their desire to come up with some sort of mixed use concept. It could be commercial retail, commercial residential. They're open to discussions with the county. And I think that area is critical because, as I have mentioned earlier, on the other side of Ernston Road, on behalf of Old Bridge, I'm working with NJDOT and NJ Transit on a transit village redevelopment plan. And I think we can take advantage of that designation because it is at a walking distance from the bus terminus in Old Bridge. So it'll be a great opportunity to redevelop that area and look at those sites. I think this would be just the first step. We haven't reached into the planning stage. This would be a recommendation to the council so that they initiate the planning board to conduct an area investigation study to see if it even qualifies as an area in need study. And lastly, it's the Crossman Street sites. There are 16 parcels. I think initially the discussion was the properties at the intersection of Crossman Street and Main Street because Quick Check is moving. That's the main anchor store. The strip mall already has a high vacancy or tenancy that changes frequently. There was a buzz that the across Quick Check would be Wawa, and behind that there would be a bus depot. The property owner had reached out to us expressing interest in redeveloping the site. I believe it was our business administrator who recommended that we evaluate sites on either side of Crossman Road because there is a vacant property that has potential to be redeveloped. It is sandwiched between an industrial property and a residential property. So we've made recommendation that again, this area be evaluated to see if any of these sites qualify for, based on the local housing redevelopment law for, and is suitable for an area and need study. Thank you.
Thank you, Vina. I just want to make a comment too, and before I open up for any discussion or see if the engineer wants to also add any discussion about it. Two things. First, when we have a resolution such as this is a recommendation to the mayor and council. It's not that we are taking official action, but in essence, it's a recommendation and a suggestion to mayor and council to move forward with this. So that's the purpose or the essence of the resolution. The second is we're going to ask for it to be amended so that A and B are deleted for this time period. We want to make sure that the property owners, all the property owners were duly spoken to or discussed about this project before moving over, very comfortable with item C. So even though if we want to have that discussion now about those other two items, or those other two A and B, we can. But I want to let you know that we are going to amend this resolution for the inclusion of simply C at this point. And I don't know, David or Justin, if you have any comments or anything else?
Nothing.
Commissioners, any questions, discussions?
Yeah, I'd like to know what page it's on this, little pad we have here to read it a little bit better. What page is it on?
37.
37, 38, and 39.
And the recommendation is for non-condemnation area. Since the developers, the property owners have requested this action.
Well, Mike, I think that generally, we are always recommending a non-condemnations study and redevelopment. It's up to the council ultimately, but it's not our recommendation for even the other. Eventually, if we do, we will not be recommending any condemnation because that creates a lot of consternation with residents. They think that we're taking over or public. And so henceforth, our recommendation is always, and that's what my recommendation to the commissioner saying, we always recommend non-condemnation. We don't recommend any condemnation unless it is absolutely agreed by the property owner as a friendly condemnation process. There are different ways of doing that, but I just want to make sure that you understand.
Mr. Schaub, one thing, I am not certain if Sayreville has an ordinance that prohibits using a feminine domain or a condemnation plan. I don't know. Okay.
So
Some
again,
towns that do have ordinance in place.
again, just a resolution that you will be adopting, and we'll have a clean copies, but right now you can just cross off item A and B, and you're only adopting item C.
That's the potential expansion of the Hercules redevelopment study area that we're talking about. Mike, you brought up before about sunshine, but that's not on your.
That's not part of it.
That's part of C? You're lumping it all together. Thank you. Regarding the sunshine property, there's to be a traffic study. You're talking about two high, what was the word? High use warehouses. And what high use as in?
No, the high use is not the right word. It is going to be warehousing. The tenants, we still don't know. There will be 2 tenants in each building. There are 2 buildings. We still don't know who the tenants are, but it'll be a typical warehouse building, not a fulfillment center like Amazon. But when the redevelopment plan is written, there will be a requirement for a detailed traffic impact study. By then, they will also have an idea if their negotiations with Conrail are working, because if they're using public transport to get their deliveries, that will reduce the traffic significantly. But this is too premature at this stage. All we are doing tonight is just asking the council to direct the planning board to undertake the study to see if it even qualifies for redevelopment. But as part of the redevelopment plan, as part of the the planning board approvals, they will be required to do a detailed traffic impact study. And the county has chimed in on the traffic circulation. I was a part of it. We did have recommendations too, because originally there were plans that the access on Bordentown Road also be used for trucks. But it was my recommendation, the Old Bridge Township engineer's recommendation, that Journey Mill Road be used because it's a signalized intersection. So there was a lot of discussion with the county participation and CME on traffic circulation. They're revising their plans, but eventually there will be a traffic impact study.
Go from there, through SERA,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
I don't know.
I mean,
I know it's not your fault, but I'm just saying.
no,
We have so much traffic now with trucks.
we understand.
It's incredible. I don't know where you live, but where I live, the other end of Sayreville on Bordertown Avenue, I used to be able to pull up to the top of the hill, both ways. Okay, I can pull out. Truck traffic has increased tenfold. And now you're talking about more warehousing, which to get to Route 9 or to the Turnpike is through Sarah. That's just my.
Sure.
Thank you, Paul. Is there any comments or discussion from any of the other commissioners? Bina, thank you so much for the presentation. We appreciate it. We have a second presentation this evening from Cesar Serra, reference to our downtown area. Claro.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Sarah for hiring me to do the study. It's been an interesting experience these last couple of months walking the Main Street. And this is my, this is the, I guess, the final draft presentation. Okay. So we're calling it for now the Main Street Sayreville Existing Conditions and Economic Development Study. There it is.
Yeah, go ahead.
The resolution, because I was with that, but if we never develop a discussion, I know we have a discussion with, like, one of the birthday, one of the phase two. I think we didn't ever, so, and I was, that is one of the.
Hi, everybody. Just a brief kind of history of the Trammell Crow project and the phase two process. In order for them to move forward with phase two, they are required to create a connection road between Cheesequake and Journey Mill. They did explore 4 options. 3 of them proved to be unfeasible due to either a Conrail issue, a wetland mitigation issue, or some other uncontrollable issue. The 4th road seems to be the best option as of now. They're going to move forward with engineering on that. And that's about it, to be honest. Just a brief.
And I think part of that, I know that always becomes an issue. There's a preferred and non-preferred, but in essence, that property is very restricted and funded. And I'm assuming this is becoming becomes option.
That's correct. When the redevelopment plan was originally prepared for the Hercules redevelopment area, it was known that it wasn't determined at that point in time what the best way of running a road through the site was. We, as your consultant, desired to go through and have it connect with Hartle because we felt that would act as a Washington Road bypass in the event of a failure of Washington Road or a major accident. So we recommended that as the primary one. Hercules, during those discussions, said, yeah, but we're not sure of the wetlands. We're not sure whether we're going to be able to cross the railroad. We need to go through and make sure there is another option that we can consider. So the other option was known as the orange or the red road, if anybody remembers those old maps. And it was much longer, but it came out over by Florida Power and Electric. So it doesn't serve the purpose of having a Washington Road bypass, but the advantage is that it makes it less likely for a truck to go through and go that way and make a right on Journey Mill. It only makes sense for them to go through and head towards the turnpike on Bordentown heading to the west. So that is the advantage of it. That is not absolutely positive that that's going to happen yet because the engineering has to be done. There's a couple of curves in it that are a little too tight that I brought up. They thought they'd be able to work them out, but they have to check the wetlands lines and the contamination lines because there's certain contamination that's more difficult to work with than others. So that's where they're going at this point in time, but even that is not fun.
Even a longer road at times is not necessarily a bad thing because it allows truck traffic or any traffic to kind of be stacked in queues a little bit better.
That's correct. There's an advantage to it. Okay. At the time when we were going through the redevelopment plan, we were trying to go through and be compatible with the master plan, which encouraged a Washington Road bypass. We tried, okay. Problem is both Conrail and the DEP with regard to wetlands make that roadway not possible to be built.
And I think it's important that we have some way, if it's not an exact bypass, quick bypass, it is a bypass ultimately, because then you can, from Cheesequake, you can go straight, even the vehicles can go. And like Chairman said, by having a long road will allow more traffic if there was necessary to stack through the entire roadways to get through. And then when it's coming out almost by Bordentown, it makes the life easy within the town to move. And I'm pretty sure people will be using that to get onto Bordentown Avenue rather than going Washington, then Journey Mill. I think this may be a better option for us. And we need something like this in reality, as we all indicated, that there's a lot of traffic. And one of the things when it comes to traffic to keep in mind that it is not necessarily traffic generated by the residents of the town or businesses of the town. I think majority of our traffic that we see is coming from either people wants to go Parkway from East Brunswick and all the west to get to the Parkway, or coming home from Parkway to go home that way. That's our big clog. I know we have Armstrong Road, hole in the wall area that is really clogged many times, but that's since 86. I've seen that. That is not a new a traffic problem we have. But I know when I moved in 86, it was totally quiet here, no longer. Both Main Street and Washington Road is extremely busy during the commuter hours. After that, it gets quiet down. And you know what happened to the bypass, Cedarville Boulevard, River Road bypass that has never materialized. That would have helped, but some point. So when it comes to our businesses, owners, or traffic, I think we need to be cognizant that a lot of our traffic that's going through town, is from the outside of the town and not necessarily all within the town.
During one of the redevelopment a year or two ago, we discussed the road. And if I remember, it was going to take us to Journey Mill, but closer to Washington.
That was the preferred alignment. That was the connection to Hartle Drive.
Yeah.
Which would go through and bring us closer to Washington. That is the roadway that we cannot get built because of DEP wetlands concerns and because of the location of the switch on the railroad. Conrail wants to make sure that we're a certain distance away from it, okay, for their safety purposes of the rail, and they won't budge.
And they're tough.
Yep.
Remember you. So the only other way it gets us to is a road closer to Bordentown.
Yeah, that's correct.
And it's,
Basically, it's a roadway that goes diagonal from the current development that has occurred there, diagonally towards Journey Mill Road through the Hercules site.
I think, but that's important that's, positive about that is that it's almost entire Journey Mill Road is bypassed and they're just coming out near Bordentown Avenue.
And most positive that this is an active discussion to move forward with it. So
Hey, it's going to cost the developer a lot more money and Hercules a lot more money to do that. The road is probably 5 times or 6 times longer than the one that was proposed, so.
and it's not just an operational problem. It gets them out further. And then it's hard to get to the turnpike when they do that.
Well, no, because they can get to the turnpike by making a right onto Bordentown
Yeah.
and going on 18 and then hopping on the turnpike there, or going through East
Jamesburg.
Brunswick and getting on in James.
Yeah, that's what I.
Payday or busy, probably easier.
Even if they want to go south, it makes sense because they can take 18 south. And then they can take, other exit to get on the south, even to turnpike.
thank you, Zach. Appreciate it. Beth, is it possible
Thank you,
to go
Dave.
through the resolutions or do you need Denise for
Yeah, we
that?
can do that.
Jumping on, he's putting it, he's actually.
Okay.
doing the presentation.
Because I'd like to move the meeting along if we
Yeah,
can.
go right ahead.
Okay. The first resolution is Resolution A, 2020-24, 0928. This is a resolution requesting the Borough Council to refer Planning Board various properties within the borough to study area, which was Vina's report. We noted that it is going to be amended to delete at this time or delete A and B and just be inclusive of C. Is there any additional discussion or can I get a motion to approve?
Can I get a clarification because we're using A, B, C in 2 different places?
Yeah,
So-
both sides, A and B
All
out.
all A's and all B's.
So
They're the same.
B is the, Seaport,
Any more?
Route 9 and Onston Road crossing.
I thought one of these was the billboard.
No,
There is
that's a separate one.
That, there is a
They're separate.
resolution, but yes.
Okay, so.
I'm talking
my
within
ABCs
resolution
Yes.
A, in really, that,
I-
that specific
Yeah, I get it.
resolution.
It's A and
We're
B,
doing
A and B, and
928.
only that in that resolution.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that
Thank you
was-
for the clarification.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, you're looking at A here. No, it's,
Yeah.
you remember you asked we are now referring to 2024-09-28.
Can I get a motion on
I'll
it?
make a motion.
Can I get a second? Second.
Roll call. Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Dewise.
Yes.
Ms. Duffy. Mr. Grillo.
Yes.
Mr. Parikh.
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts. Mr. Scott. Chairman Zabrowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have B, which is 2024-929, a resolution of SERA approving a certain recognition agreement by and among Saraville Seaport Associates, Urban Renewal LP, Bass Pro Outdoor World LLC, and SERA. Mike, is there any?
Chairman,
Yep.
I'm happy to talk about that. This is one, and I think we had some at the last. The microphone's on. You're okay. Whenever a tenant is going to come onto that property, the tenant will want from SERA a recognition that the lease between Riverton and SERA is still in full force and effect. And that so long as that tenant pays the lease and is in good standing, we won't throw them off. So this will happen anytime there is a tenant that's coming on to the site.
Any discussion, or can I get a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve.
Oh, cool.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Dewise.
Yes.
Ms. Duffy. Mr. Grillo.
Yes.
Mr. Parikh.
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts. Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Chairman Zabrowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
C, 2024-930, a resolution of SERA relating to a certain billboard lease agreement between Saraville Seaport Associates, Urban Renewal LP, which is SSA, and SERA, and authorizing execution of documentation required by SSA's title company in order to clear title.
Chairman, this
Yep.
is a technical land title issue. I'm going to flip it to Anthony because he's working with the folks at SSA and the title company to explain.
Good evening. In order for Riverton to perfect title, the title company will require an agreement or affidavit of title confirming that there is a lease in place between SERA and Riverton, and that if there's any title as to the billboard that's of record, the title company will provide guidance as to how to clear it. So going forward, when the billboard is demolished, there'll be no title of record that reflects that the billboard is still there. Okay, so this resolution authorizes the agency to allow the executive director or the chairperson to sign off on what is required by the title company as to the formal document. So
Thank you,
But
Anthony.
Anthony, they're gonna continue to pay the rent, right? There's no,
that is correct. They're going to pay the rents pursuant to the lease agreement, even where the billboard is demolished.
This was like a really strange thing. There was an old lease with NL from 2002, and they wanted to be sure that it's not there anymore and that the lease is actually with us. That's,
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
Questions beyond that?
No, just, I was just remembering that, one of the stipulations was that it was not going to be an electronic one. Is that stipulation still there? Do,
the billboard's only going to be up for another couple of weeks and then it's down.
yeah, all right. It's just an odd thing I recall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just to provide an update on that, they submitted a permit to the Turnpike Authority for safety review to dismantle it. So it's coming down soon.
once they demolish, I think there's rules that, Parkway has that they will not be allowed any billboard, that is visible on a parkway. So this was the only one that grandfathered, they were begging me, don't demolish, but I said, there's no other option. We have to demolish that.
Any other comments, questions? If not, take a motion.
Make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Roll call. Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Deweese.
Yes.
Ms. Duffy. Mr. Grillo.
Yes.
Mr. Parikh. Councilwoman Roberts. Mr. Scott. Chairman Zabrowski. Thank you.
Now I'm looking at the screen and I see the presentation up.
Yeah.
Are we prepared for Caesar to come back up?
Let's call,
Denise back.
yeah.
Hello again. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, for now, we're calling it the Main Street Sayreville Existing Conditions and Economic Development Study. Page 2 just speaks to the engagement on what I was asked to do, the taking of the inventory, speaking to stakeholders, proposing economic development recommendations. Next slide. So the agenda for today is in the PowerPoint is general observations, inventory and current uses, survey results, proposed events, recommendations, and next steps. So on general observations, you can go to the next slide. I don't think this is going to come as a surprise to most people. There's really no gravitation to Main Street. There is a perception of speeding, zoning hodgepodge. The merchants do fear crime. There's no foot traffic. 65% of the properties are residential with an additional 14% mixed use. Only 3 properties are standalone retail. Only 6 are standalone commercial. There's really no uniform signage or lighting on the storefronts. Lack of parking. Many empty tree pits. Sidewalks that could use some upgrading. And of course, old infrastructure. The streets are dirty, particularly around the cross streets. There's no benches or beautification. There is a lack of merchant communication. No retail or commercial from Borough Hall to MacArthur, and limited event space. However, there's good news. There are large swaths of vacant land for events. There is significant residential nearby. There are opportunities for development through creative thinking. There are some easy, short-term, quick fixes to get the momentum going. There's less vacancy than you think. And for now, the centerpiece of the Strip is a religious institution. So on the inventory and current uses, first thing I want to do is give you a quick description of the uses. I won't go through them all, but I consider retail properties where goods are sold to consumers, and commercial are properties occupied by non-retail businesses providing services to consumers. Okay, so on the next slide, I did find an error. There's 4 types of zoning, only 6 vacant locations, and 36 occupied businesses, not 34. Of the 116 properties that were surveyed, 47 single-family residential, 28 two-family plus, 17 mixed use, 6 commercial, 7 religious, 3 retail, 2 public, 3 office, and 3 medical. And then I give you a breakdown of the 36 occupied businesses. You do have 8 hair salons, 4 food to go, 3 offices, 3 auto, 3 medical, 2 floral, 2 cafes, and then a bunch of others mixed in retail and commercial. I will say that the surveys returned and the interviews with the SERA members and others demonstrate that there is a consistent, strong commitment to improve Main Street. Everybody wants to see things get better there. And those who return the surveys are in lockstep on the priorities. I received excellent guidance from members of SERA and the staff. And the merchants and the residents should know all complained about security, speeding, and lack of foot traffic. That was the consistent feedback we got over and over again, those 3 issues. Restaurants, coffee shops, and retail shops were the three most desired recommendations in the survey. They pretty much appeared on everybody's return. Breweries, ice cream shops, and medical offices received multiple mentions as well. Improved parking, better infrastructure, and safety security were listed as the top three priorities. And when asked to rank most to least important issues, transportation, beautification, and safety and security received the most #1 rankings. Advocacy and marketing and branding received the least. Next slide. Of the 18 government, we had 18 government and SERA officials respond to the survey. Some merchants completed the survey. Most provided unsigned feedback. A group of them were nervous when we walked in with clipboards, so we had to come up with a different strategy. The residents provided feedback as well. So the government SERA surveys, again, there's the layout: transportation, beautification, safety, and security, the top three. And those were the top three for the merchants and residents, just in a different order. But that's where people are focused right now. So proposed events. There are 4 locations that can be used for outdoor event space for family-friendly and merchant events, as well as outdoor dining. One, of course, I've heard is used right now sometimes, which is the church parking lot. But the Flagstaff sidewalk space, which is actually the only large sidewalk space on the Strip, you could do some outdoor dining. You could flip to the next slide, sorry. There you go. Some outdoor dining. The Flagstaff parking lot could be used for networking events and maybe some musical festivals. The church parking lot, obviously, for music fairs and car shows. And the lot across the street from the church, which is the largest of the 4 outdoor spaces, you can do music fairs, car shows, holiday events, and so forth. So there is room to hold events to draw people to the Strip. So on recommendations, I want to first go with the short-term recommendations. You have 24 empty tree pits, and that's a quick fix if you have the right team on it. New tree plantings or flower pots. There are 8 raised utility covers, which are very dangerous. I'm sure people are tripping on them every day. There are no welcome signs. Again, a quick fix, putting one at MacArthur and one at Washington. And of course, coming up with a catchy tagline. Trash receptacles, none really out there. Installing them at the cross streets is probably a good start. And again, going back to speed limit enforcement, it's very minimal. I will say this, the first 2 times I came out and then had discussions with the people in the town, I didn't see any type of enforcement. But I see now coming in, there's a, this is your speed limit sign flashing. So that's already a nice improvement. So that, what you're seeing here in these pictures are kind of what the conditions are like. Again, the sidewalk could use an upgrade, but I would hold that to, later on the list. There are some other issues that I think you want to deal with first, like the tree pits and the raised utility covers. All right, long-term recommendations. I think enhancing the crosswalks and having them redesigned from Washington to Borough Hall, repainting them. Consider optic yellow, that apparently is a color that catches the eye. Flashing slow down stop signs, reflection devices, and so forth. Quarterly events, which all merchants can participate in. Additional set-aside short-term customer parking spots should be designated near the merchant locations. There are urban planning firms that work on main streets all over New Jersey, expanding parking on those strips. Free, family-friendly, inviting entertainment options should also be considered at some of the open spaces. Eventually replacing the wooden poles with modern streetlight poles that you can hang promotional banners from. And again, installing additional visual improvements to slow down the drivers. I could tell you that because the sidewalks are so small, when you are walking the street, it does feel a little dangerous and it does feel like the cars are going faster than the 25 to 30 mile an hour limit. And I just think a lot of it is perception and being that close to the street, but there are people speeding. You know, there's someone that walked the street 5 times now. You could just see it. You could feel it. All right, so there's a, next slide has the enhanced crosswalks. And now I saved the big stuff for the end. I think you can go to the next slide. I think in order to really have change and commercial revitalization on the Strip, you need to be different. I think you should consider a commercial zoning overlay initiated on both sides of Main Street from Washington to Hague Street. I think you have a lot of older residential properties there that could someday be converted to retail. I think it's something that could be beneficial to the Strip and should be considered. I also think you should relocate the post office and utilize that strategic corner, which really is in the center of Main Street, eventually as a community center and a gathering space. And as a side note, this would free up some of the nearby public parking, which has 30 spaces, most of which are occupied by either the postal trucks or the employees of the post office, and have that in one of the photos. I know the church isn't doing as well as it once did. I believe the school is now closed or downsized. So that eventually will not be the centerpiece of the Strip. And I think this post office site as a community center is something that should be considered. Next slide. I think you should offer cash incentives, again, being different. Offer cash incentives and other benefits to targeted businesses. You know, as I said earlier, everybody's in agreement that we want restaurants and retail shops that should really consider offering whatever benefits you can to draw them to the Strips. And then my last, you know, being different recommendation is that you consider purchasing the Malazewski Funeral Home and the vacant property that's next to it and sell them as redevelopment projects. Again, that's a centerpiece of the town, 2 large properties, and an excellent site to eventually do redevelopment. This map shows you the open spaces, the post office, funeral home, which are the focus of the study. Okay, next slide. So next steps, I think SERA should oversee and implement all the short-term improvements immediately. I think that gets the momentum going, gets the merchants involved, and really sends a good sign that you're serious about improving Main Street. I also recommend that you create a downtown visioning committee to implement the long-term improvements and the out-of-the-box be different concepts. I would share this report eventually with the merchants, again, to get them more involved. Hold regular meetings with developers to discuss redevelopment options and incentives. And then I would only begin the marketing and branding campaign once the small, short-term tasks are completed and the long-term projects have at least been initiated. And I would also keep thinking differently. I think that's what's needed. I provided you with a kind of accomplishment timeline. I think it's safe to say that you can do the tree pits, the utility covers, the welcome sign, the trash receptacles, and the speed enforcement in 6 months. Then I lay out what I think you can accomplish over 1 year, a year and a half, 2 years, and 3 years, of course, with the be different out of the box ideas further down the road. And again, these are accomplishments deadlines, not when you should start them. I think at some point, if you want to begin discussions on everything. When the final report is issued, I'll also have addendums which include the survey of uses and a list of the Main Street improvements. So that's what the uses report would look like. We're still tinkering with it a little bit. And then we have let's see, is it attached here? And Excel on the, at this point, I think it's 42. 42 improvements, their locations. This is where the tree pits, the overgrown weeds, the utility covers and so forth, their address and cross streets. Any questions?
Yes. Have you ever, you mentioned about the post office. Have you ever tried to do something like that, or forget a post, but just a government type thing and having them relocate, or have you ever done that?
Not in New Jersey. I've been part of teams that have attempted to do stuff like that in New York.
No, I mean that, I mean negotiating with the postal authority or some government agency. Or to,
I mean, I've had many discussions over the course of my career with government agencies, but this is a building that's not owned by the post office. It's owned by, I believe, it's privately owned and it's a lease.
No, the property is privately owned.
Yeah, the
Okay.
property's privately owned.
Right.
So, I know it's a lot and I know it takes time, and that's why I gave a timeline
Yeah,
which
sure.
stretches that out.
The answer to your question, though, because I've been involved in a couple of towns where they did, I think Monroe did negotiations with the post office to provide a centralized post office because they had 9 different.
oh yeah,
mailing
because of all
addresses.
the.
Okay, and it's a matter of going through and getting the Congress people involved, because they're the only people that really have an arm to talk about with the
Yeah.
post office.
Yes, thank you.
That's correct. Old Bridge attempted. They did relocate, but they didn't relocate in the downtown near the borough hall, town hall. They put a post office about 3 miles away from that. So David is absolutely right. You will need help from congressmen for them to relocate. Unless we can, have the property owner lease terms. I don't know what those are. We can look at that. But I think the key thing is gonna be is that you still want a post office in downtown area because that's an attractions, right? It's not like an old days attractions where post office was a place where everybody went, but it's still a place where, a lot of activity take place. So you do want in the area. I think there are disadvantage of the post office where it is. It's almost on a second floor. If we can get them another location on ground floor, I think negotiation can be easy. But that's something we have to look at in the future.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I'm interested in that I liked seeing on here is the replacement of wooden poles. I know one of the challenges we have is old wires on a lot of our old wooden poles. Have you had experience with eliminating those? And that might be something we can continue to expand throughout town because it's spaghetti out there.
I will tell you 2 stories on that
Thank you.
from my work in Staten Island. There's a strip in the center of Staten Island called Newdorp Lane. And it's a great strip, very low vacancy. And for years, we tried to get Con Ed to get rid of the poles because the poles and the wires just really take away the beauty of the strip. Couldn't get them to do it. But then there's an old industrial site on the west shore of Staten Island where nobody lives. There's no need to bury the poles. But Con Ed came in one day and buried all the poles. And it was because Amazon was moving in and building a very large warehouse facility. So it can be done. If there's will and political will, it can be done, so. So,
I think the other issue too is the traffic or the speed. Because it's a county road, it's governed by the county. And in actuality, Main Street has 2 speed, well, it probably has more than two speed limits, but in this particular area, it's 30 and then 35. And I agree, both speeds are excessive when it comes to trying to attract pedestrians or bicyclists or anybody else to a downtown area. Doesn't seem fast, is fast. Extra 5 miles an hour creates more safety issues. And I know, and David, I'm not kind of turning to you, but you're the institutional knowledge. My understanding, at one time, there was a flip-flop from MacArthur Avenue to the Main Street proper, where the county road was MacArthur Avenue and not a local road owned by the borough at this point. And I don't know what the process would be to re-flip-flop, but there's certainly been a change in the complexion of what MacArthur is. And to be able to facilitate a change in speed limit on Main Street would be certainly a lot easier if the borough was able to do that.
But I think that in all seriousness, because we've done it in some other towns, if you put the case to the county as to why you want to lower the speed limit, you provide them with data, reasoning, they will study it. And in many cases, they have lowered this. The other option, okay, and that is switching jurisdictions. That is also happened. And that is where the county has said, all right, we'll take over control of this road and you can take over control of that road. That can be negotiated with the county also. So it's a situation as that what is in the best interest of the county when you're talking and what is in the best interest of the borough, but having that dialogue. And I think that right now with the people that are in the county, if that is what you want to go through and do, I think we have somebody that'll listen to it.
So I have a question on that, John, I'm sorry. When it comes to Main Street, if we do a flip-flop like that, like you've said, I just thought of the rest of Main Street that we would probably want to keep under county control. Can we split up just a portion of Main Street to be equivalent to, let's say, MacArthur Avenue, which makes sense, so that they still have control over the rest of Main Street? Is that something that could be considered?
I think it's a situation. The only problem is if we're going to swap MacArthur for Maine from MacArthur to Washington, you're going to find MacArthur to be probably twice as long because it's got a longer sweep.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that you have to factor in is what do you want to do on each road if you're planning to go through and upgrade the neighborhood in either road? It's better if you have jurisdiction over it. So John's idea of saying, let's swap jurisdiction, but if you intend to go through and do something with the properties on MacArthur that were the Blue Acres program and you wanted to, you may want to work that out beforehand.
It may be just a thought. Maybe we just ask county, we have a jurisdiction over the Main Street in a downtown area from Washington to Seville Boulevard area, just so that we control, and then if they allow that, then we can lower the speed limit local. Just to control.
I don't want to belabor the point because I know we're still going to have a final product coming up in October, and there are other commissioners may have comments as well. But David, if you could kind of lead us in the discussion of how we want to be able to talk about the speed. I think the consensus, and I'm not somebody can tell me not, but I think the consensus would be that we'd prefer to see that speed limit lowered and have some control over that.
I'll go through and make some initial calls, and then we should go through and go over the pros and cons.
I will say, when I was walking the street, I kept getting the sense that because the sidewalks are so small and close to the street, just thinking to myself that if any one of these drivers gets distracted, their cell phone or something else, they could be up on that sidewalk in seconds. And, that's, something to consider too, in making the case for lowering the limit. And I also wondered if that's why there's so many empty tree pits, people hitting those things and knocking those trees down. But 24 tree pits is a lot. I mean, it's noticeable that there was something there and now there's not, so. Any other questions?
I think this is a draft report, obviously. All commissioner still has information, contact information with Claro. And my recommendation is that if you have any additional things after you again review the report or tonight question and answer, please certainly reach out to him to help him, finalize the report. And we'll have that report in October or November.
Yeah, I think the contract runs to early October, so,
Okay.
and your meeting is October
October.
10th or 12th, something?
Yeah, something.
So if you have comments, if you can get them to me between now and let's say October 1st, and then I can work with Himanshu to complete the report. Thank you.
Certainly, you can send it to me if you have anything you would like, to see come to your attention, or talking to people that you think, hey, this is an additional good idea. Certainly, please share with us, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caesar. On to number 13, our meeting dates for 2025. We're going to be set every second Thursday.
So the idea is that, these every second Thursday has worked well for everybody, so we want to continue. We need to advertise things back by December. So we want to adopt that either in October. I mean, I like to get it adopted in October meeting, so Beth has direction. The open question to you guys, and you need to decide. We have traditionally kept August, no meeting. Now, there's two ways we can do it, and if there is we can have a meeting date schedule and cancel if there's nothing going on. We have no meeting date in August, if that's your desire, or we can, and then if we need an emergency meeting, we can always call an emergency meeting. There are different set of procedure. Canceling is simple. Special meeting requires number of advertising. So, think about it and let us know. And then a calendar, Beth will put together a calendar for council to adopt, commissioner to adopt, and then that'll become the 2025 meeting schedule. Anything else, Beth, you need for?
No, that would be it.
Okay.
Discussion.
Hmm?
Discussion in that now on August.
They can come back to us. I'm sorry, email us if your preference is, okay, we should have a meeting in August. Sometimes it takes too long from July all the way to now September, then, it could be a lot of things. But if we need it, we'll call an emergency meeting. It's just not impossible to do.
Seems easier. If you don't need it.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's easy, that's just required notice of cancellation, doesn't require special advertising, including agenda. That's
Just agree on having an August meeting on the agenda tonight then.
we can decide that now.
Is there a consensus on that? Paul, any thoughts? Yeah. You're okay with that? Ken?
Yes.
Yes.
Looks like there's a
Yes.
consensus.
Okay.
I'll draft up the calendar and we'll have it for next meeting.
Thank you, everybody. And now on to commissioner comments. Anything from our commissioners?
I will say something. I like the direction we're going in. I like that we're exploring different things. Getting a good head start on what we're doing, advertising, outreach, transparency. I think this is a good board and I like the direction we're going in. I want to thank the commissioner, the chair, for all of the input and direction that you've given. I think it's a good thing and I want to say thank you to you and to everyone here. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, I'm going to ask for a motion to open the meeting to the public. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. DeWise,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy, Mr. Grillo,
Yes.
Mr. Parikh?
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts? Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Chairman Zabrowski?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone from the public would like to come up and speak?
Going once? Going twice? Can I get a motion to close public?
Make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
At this moment, we have some items for executive session. So I'm going to ask for, we have to read the resolution? Yep.
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act enacted October 21st, 1975 permits a public body to exclude the public from meetings or portions therefore within matters to be discussed are exempt from the requirements of the act. And whereas the act requires that prior to holding a meeting or portions thereof from which the public is excluded, the public body must adopt a resolution in public that provides for the holding of a private meeting. And whereas the SERA Economic and Redevelopment Agency has determined that a meeting should be held from which the public is to be excluded to discuss subjects exempt under this act. And now therefore be it resolved by the SERA Economic and Redevelopment Agency that it meet in executive closed session under the Open Public Meetings Act on to discuss property acquisitions, contracts, personnel, waterfront redevelopment. Be it further resolved that the minutes of the executive closed session shall be made available to the public after official action on this subject matter has been taken. Need a motion?
Second.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Deweise? Ms. Duffy? Mr. Grillo?
Yes, with a question. How do I participate virtually? Is it by phone or by Zoom?
We can phone him. We'll phone.
Thank you.
Welcome. Mr. Parikh?
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Chairman Zabrowski?
Yes.
Thank you.
Steve, you look like one of those TV sports announcers.
Easy in here. I forgot that this side of the room was so cold.
No, it's cold. We're in the middle.
I remember when it was window units here, you can hear the meetings.
So
Do we have to close the session?
We did have, go,
We
we're back
already
in,
did that.
enough,
Okay.
we're back in open session.
We're back in open session and I would exercise option to close.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Here we go.
So
Second.
moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.